In the quiet moments between one breath and the next, you possess a choice to surrender to the storm of your emotions or to stand firm, unshaken by the winds that howl around you. In the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the recognition that while you cannot always control the events that befall you, you can command your response. This inner citadel, impervious to external chaos, is where true mastery is forged. Today, we will embark on a journey together through timeless Stoic techniques, designed to help you manage your emotions effectively, empowering you to live with clarity, purpose, and unwavering resolve. Part 1. Objective Observation. Imagine emotions as waves crashing against the rugged cliffs of your mind's unstoppable forces that surge and retreat, shaping the contours of your internal landscape. Fear can rise in terrible crests, anger roars with thunderous might, sadness seeps like relentless tides, and desire crashes in unanticipated swells. Yet, the Stoics remind us that these powerful currents are not the essence of who we are. You are not the waves themselves, you are the unyielding rock standing firm against their assault. To live with equanimity, you must refine your awareness until you can observe each emotion as it arises, without judgment or reaction. The practice of objective observation begins with a moment of sacred pause, when that first tremor of emotion stirs a flicker of irritation when someone criticizes you, a pang of envy at another's success, or the ache of disappointment when plans crumble. Stop. Take in a slow, deep breath and turn your attention inward in a spirit of curious detachment. Ask yourself, silently and deliberately, what am I experiencing? Where do I feel it in my body? What is its texture, its intensity? Give it a name. This is anger, this is longing, or this is grief. Naming your emotion is not a passive label. It is an act of liberation. By identifying it, you extract its sting, transforming it from a wild and formless surge into an object of clear perception. The simple act of rational naming ruptures the illusion that emotions possess autonomous control over your mind. When you say to yourself, "This is fear," you reclaim the space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you invite choice. As you refine this skill, your inner observer grows stronger. Picture a seasoned sentinel perched atop a fortress wall, scanning the horizon without flinching at the sight of approaching clouds. Your mind, trained through repeated observation, learns to notice the shape of emotional storms before they break into chaos. You begin to recognize the subtle signals: a tightened jaw, a quickening heartbeat, a rush of heat to your face heralding the onset of emotional upheaval. This heightened somatic awareness becomes your early warning system, allowing you to engage observation long before the tide sweeps you away. Beyond naming and sensing, objective observation extends to the stories you tell yourself about those feelings. A single emotional flash can provoke judgments: "This is bad," "This shouldn't be happening," or "I can't handle this." Instead, maintain the stance of an impartial witness. Notice the thought patterns that fuel the emotional fire, the catastrophizing, the blame, the demands. Acknowledge them without endorsement. I notice a thought that labels this experience as intolerable. By mapping the interplay between sensation and cognition, you detach from reactive patterns and reclaim authority over your inner world. Through persistent practice, what once felt like a helpless storm becomes a visible phenomenon. Under your mindful gaze, you discover that emotions, while potent, are transient events passing through the theater of your consciousness. Each wave breaks upon the rock of your awareness and then recedes, leaving you firm and unshaken. This is the foundation of Stoic resilience, the power to observe your emotional life with clarity and purpose, transforming raw feeling into data for wise decision-making. Part 2. Rational Inquiry. Having built the foundation of clear, objective observation, you now wield the power of rational inquiry to dismantle the illusion that emotions command your fate. Picture yourself entering a grand library of the mind, where each feeling takes its place as a tome to be examined. When you notice anger flaring or anxiety tightening its grip, direct your inquisitive gaze to the source. Ask, what story am I telling myself? Is this disturbance born from my judgments, or is it tethered to something outside my control? The Stoics carved existence into two realms: the things you can govern, your beliefs, intentions, and actions, and the things beyond your mastery, the opinions of others, the unfolding of events. and the capricious currents of fortune. Stand before this divide with unwavering resolve. If the root of your distress is anchored in what you cannot change, such as another's behavior or an unpredictable outcome, recognize that suffering lies not in external happenings, but in your attachment to them. Release the futile struggle against the immovable, and with that release, feel the weight of needless anguish lift. Conversely, if the emotional surge traces back to a judgment you have made, "This should not be happening, I am failing, I am unworthy," then turn your scrutiny inward, own these thoughts as your creation, and you immediately reclaim the power to transform them. Engage in a dialogue with your mind as though you are a seasoned philosopher questioning a pupil. Challenge the premise of each claim. Is it true that this circumstance is intolerable? Can I know that I will not find a path forward when a thought eclipses your peace? Respond with reasoned counterpoints. I choose to see this as an opportunity to learn, or this obstacle does not diminish my intrinsic worth. With each question and answer, you chip away at the walls of irrational beliefs. As this practice deepens, you begin to perceive chains of cause and effect within your psyche. You observe that the spark of jealousy ignited your discomfort, but that spark was fed by a hidden belief that another's success diminishes you. By tracing this chain backward, anger to judgment, judgment to belief, you isolate the moment where true intervention lies. It is here that you plant the seeds of change, replacing distortions with reason, transforming reactivity into intentional choice. Imagine the satisfaction of calmly confronting a provocative comment without flaring to outrage, because you have already discerned that the comment's sting exists only in your interpretation. Visualize navigating a setback with steady composure, because you have questioned and reframed the narrative that once spelled defeat. Through rational inquiry, you dismantle the tyrant of emotion and ascend to the throne of your intellect. You become the magistrate of your mind, passing verdicts rooted in truth rather than impulse. Ultimately, rational inquiry is a practice of empowerment. It reveals that your inner citadel stands strong not through denial of feeling, but through the measured exercise of reason. As you sit in the silence after each thoughtful question, you sense a profound shift. The chasm between stimulus and response expands, and within that space, you discover the freedom to choose your path. Here, in the balance of observation and inquiry, you own your emotional destiny and step forward as the architect of your well-being. Part 3. Premeditatio Malorum, negative visualization. Now, turn to the profound discipline of Premeditatio Malorum, or negative visualization, a cornerstone of Stoic preparation that transforms fear into fortitude. This practice does not seek to darken your days, but to sharpen your inner armor, so that when adversity strikes, you stand unshaken. Begin by setting aside a few quiet moments each day to imagine in vivid detail the potential loss, failure, or pain that life might bring. Consider the faces of those you love fading from your daily life, the collapse of a project you've poured your heart into, or the sting of criticism delivered without mercy. Let the scenarios unfold in your mind's eye as if you were reading a dramatic play, allowing the first pangs of discomfort to rise. As you visualize these hardships, deepen your awareness of the feelings that surge within. Notice the tightness in your chest, the flutter in your stomach, the ache at the back of your heart. Acknowledge these sensations without turning away. Speak to yourself with calm resolve. I see this possibility. I feel this fear. I accept it as part of life's tapestry. By intentionally rehearsing your vulnerability, you interrupt the power of shock and surprise, replacing it with readiness and composure. But negative visualization goes beyond mere contemplation of loss. It invites you to examine the transient nature of all things you hold dear. Reflect on the impermanence of youth, health, and fortunes. Picture the day when even your greatest joys will slip through your fingers, not to terrify you, but to illuminate the preciousness of the present moment. With each contemplation, you learn detachment, not detachment born of cold indifference, but a loving acknowledgement that clinging intensifies suffering. Imagine the peace that arises when you greet the worst-case scenarios with quiet equanimity. If you have already rehearsed the possibility of failure, you will approach challenges with sober humility rather than vain arrogance. When criticism comes, you will receive it like rain upon a boat, uncomfortable, yet expected and harmless. At your core, If loss descends, you will bear it with the dignity of one who has already said farewell in advance. Negative visualization also cultivates gratitude. As you contemplate what you might lose, you begin to treasure what you still possess. The simple act of imagining a world without your morning cup of coffee, a heartfelt conversation, or the warmth of sunlight on your skin magnifies your appreciation for these ordinary blessings. Gratitude and resilience, entwined, fortify you against despair. Through disciplined rehearsal of potential hardships, you build a reservoir of inner strength. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a storm-tossed sea. Others may run in terror at the rising waves, but you have walked these shores in your imagination. You know how to plant your feet firmly in the sand. With each premeditated trial, your courage deepens, your spirit steadies, and your mind sharpens. Incorporate negative visualization into your morning or evening routine. Spend no more than 5 or 10 minutes, but make it deliberate and detailed. Over time, you will notice a subtle transformation. The world ceases to threaten you with its uncertainties, for you have already embraced them. You become a warrior of the soul, equipped not because life is fair, but because you have trained for its inevitabilities in this way. Premeditatio Malorum becomes not a practice of fear, but a celebration of resilience, a powerful proof that no external event can unseat the steadfast citadel of your inner life. Part 4. Emotional distancing. Having honed the arts of observation and inquiry, you are now prepared to cultivate emotional distancing, a practice that creates essential breathing room between triggers and reactions. Imagine your mind as a calm lake and emotions as ripples on its surface. When a stone, an insult, a disappointment, a painful memory is thrown, ripples radiate outward. Without distancing, you allow those ripples to churn the depths, stirring turbulence in your core. With emotional distancing, you become the sky above the lake, vast, still, and untouched by the undulating surface. Begin by visualizing a safe, open space between yourself and the emotional stimulus. In the moment of provocation, whether it's a harsh comment from a colleague or a flash of guilt over a past mistake, pause. Take a deliberate breath and picture stepping back, as if you place a physical cushion between you and the source of discomfort. This mental maneuver shifts you from being swept away by the wave to standing on solid ground. As an observer of your own experience. In this vantage point, emotions retain their power to inform you. They still color the scene with heat and urgency, but they no longer possess the authority to dictate your actions. You allow yourself to name the feelings silently. There is anger, there is sadness, or there is fear. You note its intensity on a scale from 1 to 10. This gentle quantification grounds abstraction and reality, reminding you that every emotion has limits and a lifespan. Observing that your anger peaks at a 6 rather than a 9 can calm the sense of crisis. Next, extend the distance by asking reflective questions from your vantage point. What need lies beneath this emotion? What value of mine feels threatened? By interrogating the deeper layers, your need for respect, your longing for connection, your drive for competency, you transform raw emotion into a signal that guides your response. You might discover that anger masks hurt, or that frustration veils a desire for control. This insight allows you to address the true issue rather than lashing out at its surface form. As you continue this practice, integrate a grounding technique that aligns the mind and body. Feel the solidity of your feet against the ground, the support of the chair beneath you, the air entering your lungs. Anchor in these physical sensations while maintaining your mental distance. This dual focus, body and mind, dissolves the illusion that emotion and identity are inseparable. You realize that while you experience feelings intensely, they do not define your essence. Emotional distancing also cultivates compassionate self-reflection. From this vantage point, you can observe not only the emotional surge, but also your thought patterns, the judgments, the catastrophizing, the urgent demands. You witness them with empathy rather than reproach, acknowledging, I see that I am telling myself a story of injustice. The self-compassionate stance diffuses self-criticism and fosters a kinder, more resilient inner environment. Over time, emotional distancing becomes second nature, a silent pause button you press whenever turmoil rises. With practice, the gap between stimulus and response widens. granting you the freedom to choose actions aligned with your highest values: dignity, wisdom, benevolence rather than reflexive impulses. You move from being a victim of your feelings to being their master, responding with measured clarity instead of reactive heat. Opportunities to practice abound. A tight deadline triggers stress. A heated discussion provokes defensiveness, and a memory surfaces with regret. Each moment becomes a laboratory for your Stoic training. Step back, observe, question, ground yourself, and respond thoughtfully. In this way, emotional distancing transforms chaos into clarity, reactivity into reflection, and storms into breezes that pass over the calm lake of your mind. Part 5. Mindful Self-Talk. At the heart of Stoic emotional mastery lies the transformative power of mindful self-talk, the inner conversation that shapes the narrative of your life. Your mind is a theater where thoughts perform on stage, sometimes uplifting, sometimes destructive, without guidance. These internal dialogues can spiral into spirals of doubt, feeding fears like "I am not enough" or "this is insurmountable." Stoic self-talk, by contrast, is a deliberate script you write with intent and virtue. Begin by listening closely to the chatter in your mind. When challenges arise, a looming deadline, a tense confrontation, or an unexpected setback, notice the first words that echo within. "I can't handle this," "they will judge me," or "I always fail." Don't judge these thoughts, simply catalog them as you would a list of symptoms. Then, in that same moment, introduce a counterthought rooted in reason and strength. Replace "I can't handle this" with "I have surmounted difficulties before, and I will do so again." Swap "they will judge me" for "their opinions do not define my worth." In this way, you become the playwright of your psyche, crafting lines that uplift rather than undermine. Self-talk is most potent when it is precise and present tense. Broad affirmations like "I am calm" or "I am strong" ground you in the current moment, whereas future promises, "I will be okay," leave room for lingering doubt. Frame your declarations as truths you choose to embody now. "I choose courage," "I own my judgments," "I am the master of my response." Speak them silently during moments of calm as preparation, and repeat them when emotions flare as anchors to steady your resolve. Consider how a seasoned soldier readies for battle. Before the storm hits, the soldier runs drills, repeating mantras, to steel the mind against fear. Similarly, you can weave mindful self-talk into your morning ritual. As you rise, affirm, "Today, I will meet obstacles with clear thinking." Throughout the day, when you notice tension rising, clear your mental stage by muting unhelpful narratives and spotlighting your chosen mantra. Harnessing the full potential of self-talk also requires compassion. Harsh self-criticism, "I should not feel this way," or "Why am I so weak?" only adds fuel to the fire of negative emotions. Instead, adopt the tone of a wise mentor, firm yet kind. Acknowledge setbacks with empathy. "I see you are in pain." Then guide yourself gently toward constructive alternatives. Let's find a way forward. This blend of realism and encouragement fosters resilience, reminding you that mistakes are not moral failings, but growth opportunities. Self-talk transcends the individual moments of challenge. It reshapes the architecture of your mind over time. Each supportive phrase you repeat becomes a neural pathway reinforcing composure, and each act of inner kindness rewires the instinct toward self-attack. Imagine your mind as a garden. Every positive affirmation is a seed planted in fertile soil, sprouting habits of courage, patience, and clarity. Finally, sustain this practice by keeping a journal of your internal dialogue. Record moments when self-talk diverted you from despair to action. Note the specific phrases that resonated and those that fell flat. Reflect weekly on patterns that emerge. Perhaps certain situations trigger defeatist narratives and pre-write empowering responses for the next encounter. This reflective cycle deepens your mastery of mindful self-talk, ensuring your inner voice remains a loyal ally rather than a hidden saboteur. Through mindful self-talk, you harness the raw materials of thought and feeling, forging them into a narrative that serves your highest purpose. You learn that while emotions may knock on your door, the words you speak to yourself determine whether you open it to chaos or courage. Part 6. Breath control. In moments of overwhelming emotion, your breath is the unacknowledged ally that can restore balance between mind and body. The Stoics understood that the body's physiological state profoundly shapes the landscape of our feelings, and by mastering the simple rhythm of inhalation and exhalation, you seize immediate control over emotional upheaval. When anger surges like wildfire through your veins, when anxiety chokes your chest with tightness, or when despair darkens your thoughts, turn inward to this primal anchor, the steady cycle of your breath. Begin by closing your eyes and bringing your full attention to the air moving in and out of your nostrils. Do not rush this process. Allow each inhalation to become deliberate, drawing in cool air that fills your lungs and invigorates your senses. Count to 4 as you breathe in, holding your mind firmly on the sensation of expansion in your ribcage and abdomen. As the count completes, suspend your breath for another deliberate measure of 4, maintaining a calm stillness that quells the racing impulse. Then exhale slowly on a count of 6, imagining you release tension, doubts, and fear with the outgoing air. This extended exhalation is crucial. By making your out-breath longer than your in-breath, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural brake on stress. Feel the physical tightening in your shoulders dissolve, your jaw unclench, your heartbeat steady. With each cycle of 4-count inhale, 4-count hold, and 6-count exhale, you send a clear message to your brain that it can shift from fight or flight to rest and digest mode. As you continue, pair this breathing technique with a guiding phrase whispered silently to yourself. On the inhale, think, "I breathe in calm." On hold, feel the strength of stillness. On the exhale, think, "I release chaos." These simple affirmations fuse breath control with mindful self-talk, reinforcing the sense of agency and peace. Practice this technique during quiet moments before starting your day, after a challenging meeting, or when you wake in the night with turbulent thoughts. Over time, the neural pathways connecting breath to emotional regulation strengthen, and you gain the ability to enter this state of centered calm almost by instinct. You may even observe yourself automatically slowing your breath during stress, without conscious effort, as your body recalls the habitual pattern of serenity. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind howling around you, your mind buffeted by fear and uncertainty. Then recall the breath technique you have mastered. You close your eyes, draw in a slow, steady breath, hold with composed presence, and exhale all panic into the void. As the final exhale completes, you open your eyes to a still horizon, a mind cleared of emotional storm clouds, ready for deliberate, virtuous action. Breath control is not a passive solace, it is a potent tool of empowerment. Each measured inhale expands your capacity for clarity. Each hold cements your commitment to composure. Each exhale sweeps away the residue of impulsive reactivity. In this way, the simplest act of breathing becomes an act of stoic defiance against emotional tyranny. Remember, in the tumult of life, the breath you draw is the sword you wield, sharp, precise, and always yours to command. Part 7. Reframing Obstacles. In the Stoic tradition, every challenge you face is not a barrier, but a crucible in which your character is forged. The Greek term for obstacle, proskopon, carries within it a paradox, an impediment that propels you forward. When you hit a wall, whether it's a harsh critique, a broken promise, or an unforeseen setback, resist the instinct to recoil or despair. Instead, lean in. See this moment as a living lesson, a teacher clad in adversity. Begin by reframing the obstacle through a question. How can this situation refine me? If someone attacks your integrity, consider how you might demonstrate your values more clearly through measured responses, exemplary behavior, or unwavering honesty. If a project collapses under unexpected strain, ask what you will do differently next time. What structures, what plans, what safeguards you will build into your process. Each obstacle reveals an area where your resilience, ingenuity, or patience can deepen. Envision your challenges as mountain passes rather than walls. A mountain pass is narrow and treacherous, but it leads you to heights you could not otherwise reach. When frustration or failure rises, take a moment to imagine standing on that peak, stronger, wiser, and more capable because you survived the ascent. This perspective transforms fear into determination. The obstacle becomes a compass pointing to your next level of mastery. In practice, adopt a mantra when you confront difficulty. This is my opportunity to grow. Repeat it silently as you navigate thorny interactions or daunting tasks. Notice how this simple shift in language alters your emotional landscape. What might have felt like humiliation turns into humility, opening space for learning. What seemed like defeat becomes a challenge accepted, fueling perseverance rather than paralysis. Consider the story of Marcus Aurelius himself, beset by political turmoil, personal loss, and physical ailments. Rather than view these hindrances as curses, he chronicled them as prompts to exercise patience, gratitude, and self-control. Let his example guide you. Document each obstacle you encounter in a journal. Write down the situation, your initial reaction, and then the lesson extracted. Over weeks and months, you'll observe patterns, recurrent obstacles that unveil deeper virtues awaiting cultivation. Beyond reflection, take aligned action. If criticism shatters your confidence, seek out constructive feedback and devote time to skill building. If disappointment gnaws at your spirit, channel that energy into planning and preparation, anticipating future hurdles before they arrive. This proactive engagement with obstacles cements the understanding that you are not at their mercy. They exist to sharpen you. Finally, celebrate each victory, however small, that emerges from reframing an obstacle. The moment you quell a surge of frustration and respond with composure, acknowledge it. When you transmute failure into a blueprint for improvement, honor that achievement. These micro-celebrations reinforce the neural pathways of growth, embedding a core Stoic truth. Adversity is not an enemy, but an ally in the pursuit of excellence. By embracing obstacles as opportunities, you cultivate an unshakable mindset. You become a craftsman of your fortitude, training yourself to perceive every impediment as a chance to refine your virtue. In this way, obstacles cease to be roadblocks. They transform into the very stepping stones that carry you toward a life of resilience, wisdom, and unwavering purpose. Part 8. Daily reflection. In the quiet of evening, when the world's clamor fades and you stand at the threshold between activity and rest, you perform the sacred Stoic rite of daily reflection. This is your moment of candid reckoning, a time to illuminate the contours of your day, assessing triumphs and trials with the eye of an unflinching philosopher. As the sun dips below the horizon, carve out at least 5 to 10 minutes to engage in this practice, for it forges the link between experience and growth. Begin by finding a space of solitude. Close your eyes and take a cleansing breath, releasing the day's residual tension. Then, with pen in hand or typed into a journal, ask yourself the foundational question: where did I act with wisdom and self-control today? Recall specific instances. The time you paused before responding to provocation, the moment you chose generosity over resentment, the occasion when you upheld your integrity despite external pressure. As you recount these victories, allow a surge of gratitude to wash over you. Gratitude for the strength within that guided you, and for the clarity that illuminated your path. Next, confront the shadows. Where did I give in to rash impulses? With the same unflinching gaze, examine moments of weakness when you let anger overrun reason, when doubt silenced your courage, or when you sacrificed long-term values for fleeting comfort. Resist the urge to evade or excuse. Honesty is the crucible in which virtue is refined. Write down each misstep without judgment, as if cataloging data points for future analysis. This meticulous accounting transforms regret into actionable insight. For what you acknowledge with clarity, you can improve. Having mapped successes and stumbles, bridge toward tomorrow. How can I improve? For each lapse, propose a concrete strategy. If impatience costs you composure, vow to practice mindful breathing. At the first sign of agitation, if pessimism clouds your outlook, plan to counteract it with morning affirmations focused on possibility. Anchor these commitments with the same precision you apply to your self-talk. Tomorrow, I will pause for 3 deep breaths before reacting. Or tomorrow, I will write down 1 lesson learned from adversity. These targeted resolutions ensure that reflection propels you forward rather than trapping you in cycles of remorse. End your ritual by centering on gratitude. List 3 things for which you are thankful today, no matter how small. A kind word from a colleague, the taste of your evening meal, or simply the gift of continued breath. Gratitude sharpens your awareness of life's abundance and counterbalances critical self-scrutiny. With appreciation, over time, this nightly audit becomes as natural as sleep itself. You'll recognize patterns emerging, recurring triggers, evolving strengths, and the subtle shifts in your inner landscape. These patterns serve as a compass, guiding your practice and illuminating the virtues that demand deeper cultivation: patience, resilience, humility, or courage. Remember, daily reflection is not an exercise in chastisement, but a celebration of your active engagement. In the art of living well, it is the lens through which chaos renders into clarity, mistakes alchemize into wisdom, and the ordinary steps of your day coalesce into the extraordinary journey of self-mastery. Through this consistent practice, you transform fleeting moments into lasting growth, ensuring each sunrise finds you wiser, steadier, and more resolute than the day before. Part 9. Morning Intentions and Community. Each dawn brings with it a fresh canvas upon which you paint the intentions that will shape your day. Before you step from sleep into waking life, devote even a few moments to setting the tone for every thought and action. In the silence of morning, seated by the soft glow of sunrise, or simply perched on the edge of your bed, cultivate your Stoic viewpoint by articulating clear, purpose-driven affirmations. These simple yet potent declarations serve as a compass, orienting your mind toward reason and virtue from the very first breath. As you repeat each phrase, visualize yourself living it out, responding with honesty in conversation, holding steady in the face of provocation, and making decisions rooted in long-term flourishing rather than fleeting pleasure. But morning intentions are only one pillar of emotional mastery. The second is the strength found in community. Though Stoicism honors individual self-governance, it also recognizes that our personal growth flourishes when nurtured by shared wisdom. Seek out companions, friends, family, or mentors whose own commitment to growth mirrors your own. Form a circle of trust where you exchange reflections on practice, celebrate victories, and illuminate blind spots. Consider convening a weekly gathering, whether in person or virtually, to discuss Stoic exercises and their real-world applications. Share your morning affirmations and the moments they guided you through. Invite honest feedback. What challenges did you face? How did your intentions keep you anchored? Or where did they falter? This open exchange transforms abstract principles into lived experience, cementing lessons through communal accountability. Within this supportive network, adopt the role of both teacher and student. Offer your insights perhaps a unique way. You framed an affirmation or a creative twist on negative visualization, and welcome fresh perspectives from others. The Stoics believed that teaching and learning are two sides of the same coin. In guiding another, you deepen your understanding, and in receiving guidance, you sharpen your practice. Community also extends beyond formal gatherings. Invite reflection into everyday interactions. Before sharing a meal, express gratitude for the company and the nourishment, reinforcing the Stoic practice of gratitude. During work or study, check in with a peer, offering a moment of calm presence to one another, perhaps a brief breathing exercise or a shared affirmation. Moreover, choose your environment wisely. Surround yourself with reminders of Stoic wisdom, quotes from Marcus Aurelius Seneca, or Epictetus displayed on your desk or refrigerator. Let these inscriptions prompt you back to your intentions. Whenever you drift, when you pass through communal spaces at home or in the office, see each setting as an opportunity for practicing composure and generosity. In the tender balance between solitary intention setting and collective support, you discover the full spectrum of Stoic power. Alone, you cultivate inner resolve. Together, you amplify each other's strengths. Each morning, your declarations empower your agency. Each shared moment with the community reinforces that agency through mutual encouragement. By weaving morning intentions and communal engagement into your routine, you create a tapestry of resilience and purpose. You rise with direction, you stand with solidarity, and you walk through life buoyed by both personal conviction and the shared commitment of kindred spirits. In this synergy, your emotional mastery transcends solitary resolve, blossoming into a life of sustained growth and collective flourishing. As you walk this path, you will discover that the storm within subsides. You will find that you are no longer at the mercy of fleeting passions, but stand tall, Guided by the light of reason and anchored in unshakable virtue, the world may toss its challenges at you, but you will meet them with serene confidence. Your emotions, once wild and unruly, become allies on your journey rather than adversaries. This is the promise of Stoicism, not a promise of a life without hardship, but the assurance that you possess the strength to face whatever rises. With each practice, objective observation, rational inquiry, negative visualization, emotional distancing, mindful self-talk, breath control, obstacle reframing, daily reflection, morning intentions, and supportive community, you build an inner fortress that no storm can breach. Step forward into your day with courage and clarity, for you carry within you the timeless strength of the Stoic sage.